going to make a start. So some of you might have seen our presentation from this morning. The short 15 minutes. What I'm literally just going to do is go through the slides really quickly, just to remind you who is SquaredUp, who are we, what do we do, what are we here to talk to you about, and then essentially Dave will do the product demo. The point of today is kind of deep dive into the product, sort of give you a sense of the capability of it, and if you have any questions, typically at the end we'll have a Q&A, so hopefully I have plenty of time to address your questions. So today is about building mission control for your IT operations. First of all, SquaredUp, who we are. So we were created 10 years ago. Some of you may know us for our SCOM dashboards or perhaps our Azure dashboards. I see a few heads nodding, so that's cool. Thank you. And so these products are essentially used today by about 650 plus customers. We have built a community of SCOM and IT admin and IT ops users. But today we are here to essentially talk to you about our next generation platform. This is still called SquaredUp. The mission control for IT and cloud operations means if you're an IT ops, if you're a DevOps, if you're perhaps an SRE, you're looking after an application, some services, some microservices. You might be using a lot of different tools to help you manage your applications and services. This is where our next generation dashboard and observability platform can essentially help you. Moving on next. So how we do it, and Dave will show that in quite a bit of details today, is we've actually made available over 40 plugins today, which means if you're using platforms like AWS or Azure or GCP, or maybe you're monitoring your apps from tools like Dynatrace, New Relic, or whatever tools it is that you're using, we want you to be able to visualize your operations from any data and anywhere. Okay. You'll also notice we have a custom PowerShell plugin as well, and we'll get to see that as well today. We'll show you how you can use a script or scripts that you may be using on your local environment to do some automation, and how you can visualize the output of such a script essentially in this platform. So Dave will pretty much spend quite a bit of time on plugins. You also get to see how you could potentially, if you're interested, write your own plugin using PowerShell as well. So if you have a very specific tool that you're using and you want to write a plugin for it for the community, that is also going to be something that will be possible very soon when we open source our GitHub plugin repository. What Dave will also walk you through is how essentially you can surface all of your data in one place. You'd get to see our knowledge graph, you'd get to see how you build a dashboard, you'd get to see how you can import custom data from a PowerShell script, and you'll essentially get to see how you can then use the product to search through your environments once everything is imported, to build dashboards easily, how you can use alerting and notification as well. And one point we really want to emphasize, we don't actually store your data, and Dave will show you how we index all of the objects that we can find from all your tools, and how we can then in real time pull the metrics from those objects. And that's it. That's demo time. Over to you, Dave.
Well, thanks, Vincent. Let's jump over. Let's go full screen now. All right, so this is an example dashboard, so it's kind of a demo of lots of the different plugins we have. So here we're showing data from CloudWatch, we've got Grafana, Datadog, there's Dynatrace data, Azure DevOps, Pingdom, and it goes on. And this is just really a bit of an example dashboard. So everything in SquaredUp is organized into what we call workspaces. So here I'm in my demo workspace. And if I just come back here, we've got a whole list of different workspaces. And a workspace might be an individual application, it might be an individual plugin or platform, or it might be a team, depending on how you organize it. If I jump down to one of our kind of example applications, this is our quote application. It's modeled around a kind of insurance company. So I can see the kind of executive status as well as the operational status. And we like to split those out. Operationally, you might have an issue with an application, but it's not affecting your users. The executive team and so on don't need to, be worried about that. So we show them the green status, kind of everything's good from that point of view. And we've also, for this application, mapped out its dependencies. So I can see in the middle here, we've got our quote application, and I can see we've got 5 dependencies on different microservices here. So there's the risk service, vehicle service, and so on. And actually, I can see we've got our policy service. And for some reason, this application is red, and we can see that's potentially because there is an issue with this policy service. And what SquaredUp lets you do is kind of drill down, get a bit more information, see what's going on. So if I drill down to our policy service here, we now get a bit more information. Some errors. Let's give that a refresh. I like to blame the conference Wi-Fi when you get an error like that. Let's see. Come on. I clearly haven't made enough sacrifices to the demo gods today. Damn. All right. Ignore those bits. So we've got our application. I can see, we've got a few monitors that we're monitoring, and perhaps actually this application, there's something wrong because there's a metric here that's going red. So again, I can drill down and see what's going on. So, we've got a few metrics we're monitoring for this service. I can see concurrent executions, that seems fine, errors are fine, but actually Lambda duration is red, and perhaps, there's something spiking here that's causing that issue. So then, I've got that information, I can go and see, what recent changes were made, talk to the person who made those changes, and so on. And it's pretty easy to build the dashboards as well. So if I come in here and say new dashboard and hit configure, this is our kind of in-browser tile editor. So I can choose firstly where I want that data to come from. So let's take AWS as an example, and I'll choose my pre-prod account. You can then kind of filter it. So maybe I'm looking specifically for stuff about API gateways or functions, whatever it might be. So let's click functions here. And then I can pick, what some of my functions. So I'll just pick a few at random. And once you've kind of chosen that scope, we call it, you're then presented with a list of data streams, which are all of the metrics and data that might be available for that scope. So, I've got things like duration, errors, throttles, but I've also got custom metrics. So, if we don't have something out of the box, you can add a metric, type in the name of that, and if it's in CloudWatch, we'll pull that back. So I can say Lambda duration here. We'll go off and fetch that data. So like Vince mentioned, we're not storing it. In this case, we're going off to the AWS CloudWatch API in real time to pull that data back. We might lightly cache the data. So, if you've got 100 users viewing the same dashboard, we're not making 100 requests to AWS. But for the most part, it's fetched in real time. Once I've kind of configured that tile, you can then add monitoring on top. So I'm going to come up here at the top right and enable monitoring. And then you can do a few different bits and pieces. So here the default is a threshold monitor. Obviously it's a time series data. So I can say, if it goes above 10, then I want that to be an error. Maybe if it's, 5 for a warning and so on. So if I hit save on that, that'll take me back to the dashboard, and I can add other tiles, resize them, drag them around, all the stuff you'd expect to be able to do. But what you'll see in the background, we've gone and created that monitor. So I can see that tile is red, and that tile then rolls up to the dashboard, and the dashboard rolls up to that workspace. So you have that health roll-up model across your entire business, for all of your applications, all the different services that make up those applications. One of the things Vince mentioned is that we index and kind of catalog what's where. So when you connect your AWS account, we'll have a look and say, okay, you've got 50 functions, you've got 10 databases, whatever it might be. And it means you can search across your entire estate. So if we've connected to your AWS account, your Azure account, GCP, and so on, you can just search. So I'll search for master API here. I know that's one of our Lambdas up in AWS. I can see, okay, we've got the Lambda function, it's connected to an API gateway. So we're starting to discover some of the relationships, between those different resources as well. You can then just query for any data. So if I say duration here, for this Lambda, we'll go off to CloudWatch and pull that data back. So, you don't have to build out all those dashboards. If you're kind of ad hoc, just troubleshooting an issue and want to explore the data, it's kind of all at your fingertips there. So let me just jump over to our settings area. So this is our plugins page. Now this is the demo lab, so we've configured a whole bunch of different plugins, as you can see. But if I hit add plugin, we'll get into our gallery, and you can see, you've got the main clouds there. We've got the custom PowerShell plugin, which I'll demo shortly. Different APM tools, CI/CD tools, different databases, monitoring tools, and so on. And we're continually adding new plugins as well. Currently, the plugins are kind of internal, but we're planning to shortly open source all of those plugins. So that means, the community will be able to contribute to those. You'll be able to write your own plugins, whether that be in PowerShell or Node.js, JavaScript, and really kind of give back and share, your knowledge, your experience with others. So let me have a look at this custom PowerShell plugin. This is quite a simple plugin. It lets you run a PowerShell script, which you might already have, for querying an API or talking to a different tool and so on. So I'm going to come in here and let me just jump over to Visual Studio actually before I do that. Hopefully, is that big enough for you guys at the back? Hopefully you guys can see that. So we've got a couple of scripts. There's the first one, which is going to get the disks. Now this is a pretty example script, and I'm not a PowerShell expert, so don't judge me too closely on the PowerShell. But this script simply queries WMI for a list of disks on the local machine and returns them back. So I've got that script saved, so I'm going to configure that. Let me just grab this file path so I don't have to type that out. So I'm going to say, it's my getDisks.ps1 script. I'm going to run it on that agent group. So this is configuring the plugin, telling it which script it's going to run and where it's going to run that script. So I'll hit add. And what we'll do in the background, we'll go off and run that script. So if I scroll down here, it says running for less than 1 minute. And in a few seconds, that should finish. And what you'll see if I go to the dashboard is it's now imported those disks. Let's give it a refresh. Too many gremlins today. Come on. Let's see what's going on. Did I get the path right? GetDisks.ps1, I think that's right. Let's just re-trigger it. Sorry about that. There we go, maybe it just took a second. So I can see here we've got a server it's discovered, and it's discovered a single disk. Now this, like I say, it's a pretty example script, but maybe you write a script that goes and queries Pingdom or a different tool that you're kind of using as an organization. So this is pretty cool. I can drill down to the disk, start to see a few kind of relationships. Maybe in this case we've just got the disk, but I can see some key properties. I can see it's an NTFS disk, it's not compressed. I can see the device ID and a few other bits of detail. So that's pretty cool, but it's not really much you can dashboard with. And that's where data streams come in. So those can also be PowerShell scripts. So I'm going to go into my settings page and configure a new data stream. And we'll say this is the custom PowerShell plugin. I'm going to call this free disk space. Pretty common metric you might want to query for. So in full Blue Peter style, I'm going to grab the JSON. Now, this is basically declaring a data stream. So I can see we've got the name of the script it's going to run here, get free disk space. It's going to show up for any volumes, which is the thing I've just imported. And we've got a bit of metadata to say, okay, we've got a name, we've got the disk size, we've got the free space, and so on. So I'm going to paste that into there and hit save. And now if I go back to that dashboard and drill down, you'll see let's go refresh, you've actually got a data stream for this disk. And in this case, that data stream is going to go off and fetch some free disk space. So give that a second, we should get some disk space coming in. There we go. So there's kind of two pieces to a plugin. You've got the import side of things, which imports objects into our graph. So that graph then has all the relationships, it has all the kind of modeling within your applications and so on. And then you've got the data streams, which are where we're querying live data into SquaredUp. So every time I view that dashboard, in essence, it's going to run that PowerShell script and query that data in. And like I say, that was a pretty noddy example. I'm sure you guys have got more powerful scripts for querying, different tools internally and so on. And then just to wrap up that demo, obviously if I wanted to put that metric on a dashboard, I could do that. So custom PowerShell, I'll just say all disks SquaredUp knows about, and there's the data stream, the free disk space. Now by default, we'll show it, I think, as a scalar, so you've got that value. But behind the scenes, we've actually got a bit more data. We've got the size of the disk, the free space, and of course, I can then add monitoring on top of that. So I can come in here and say, alert me if that goes maybe below, so less than in this case, less than 10, and hit save, and then we'll get that appropriate health state come in. So hopefully that's a good kind of summary of the kind of custom PowerShell plugin. Like Vince mentioned, we've got a whole gallery of different plugins, and soon you'll be able to kind of contribute those as well. So I think that's a wrap on the demo side of things. Yeah, okay, let's do that. So this is our monitoring page. So this is where you can see kind of a summary of the monitoring. So you saw I created that monitor for disk space, and then of course you can configure notifications. So whether you want to send those to Slack or to Teams or even as a custom webhook, you can do that as well. So lots of features there around the kind of dashboarding, and then we're kind of enhancing that with the monitoring side of things, the graph that kind of backs it all behind the scenes, and so on as well. Cool. All right. I'm going to jump back just to the last couple of slides. So just to summarize, these are some of the key use cases that we're kind of working with customers on. That's what we're seeing, people use SquaredUp for. So the first of those is status rollup. So like I mentioned, you have that kind of health monitoring at the low level rolling up to your applications, those workspaces. The second of those is incident response. So being able to, query data kind of more ad hoc, troubleshoot what's going on, find the relevant people, when you do have an issue. Third there is DevOps visibility. So we have quite a deep integration with things like Azure DevOps and Circle CI and so on. So we drink. The fourth one then is cloud cost management. So cost is a pretty big issue. That's, you talk to anyone getting into cloud or starting to use cloud, and typically they'll mention their costs are kind of climbing, and it's hard to get a handle on that. So we have integrations with all the major clouds, Azure, AWS, GCP, and all of their cost and billing APIs to pull that data in. And then finally, security monitoring. So another hot topic, but lots of people are keen to see that data. It's typically an environment where there is a lot of data, and it's hard to kind of make sense. So things like Azure Sentinel or AWS Control Tower, all of that kind of stuff to pull that data in. So that's the kind of the end of the session. What's next? You can head over to squareup.io, sign up for a 14-day free trial. We'll happily extend that if you need a bit more time to kind of get to grips with it and go from there. Come and talk to us at the booth. There's 4 of us here. Ash is somewhere in the room over there. Talk to him as well. He's on the more technical side of things, so he'll happily answer questions. We've got a bunch of Lego on our booth that we're giving away. So there's a huge Millennium Falcon, and there's lots of little microfighters as well. And the idea with that is take a trial of our product, build the best dashboard you can, and the best dashboard wins the Millennium Falcon with the microfighters for the runners-up. So if you make us laugh or make me smile with some Lego reference or Star Wars reference, you're probably in with a good chance. But yeah, pop by the booth to find out more about that. Brill. I guess I'll open up for questions for myself and Vince as well, if there's anything. Yeah, so we're not storing the data, but those other tools are. So take something like CloudWatch. So we depend on the other tools. We're not, actively, we haven't got agents on servers, doing logging or looking at any of that kind of stuff. We're purely around kind of aggregating data from all of the different tools you might use and kind of bringing it into one place. So for incident response, the usual scenario might be, okay, you log into the AWS console, have a look at CloudWatch, then you move over to New Relic, and then you move over to Pingdom, and you're kind of jumping around all these tools. And our proposal is actually, let's put all of that in one place, give you one place, and kind of put it all in the context of each other as well. Yeah. And then it kind of gets the data already, so you can store that somewhere to retrieve Yeah, good question. So we've got a feature at the moment in beta, which is KPIs, which is basically where you've marked a particular metric or key value as kind of really critical, a key indicator, and that is something where we'd consider then storing that data. We don't do that today. Like I say, it is a beta feature, but it's definitely on our roadmap because then you can use that for SLO reporting, historical reporting over time, and all of that side of it. Yeah. Thanks. Please. Yeah. So I guess you're using SquaredUp for SCOM? Yeah, cool. So SquaredUp for SCOM and Azure are our server-based products. This is a SaaS-based solution, so it was built from the ground up to work with any tool and any platform. Yeah, it's quite. We launched it at reInvent last year, so it's a relatively young product. So if you are using SCOM and that is your kind of main portal, I'd still recommend SquaredUp for SCOM just for the depth of integration. But what we're working with a few customers on a solution that we call EAMX, which is where you'd retain SquaredUp for SCOM as your kind of single pane of glass, but you get the value of cloud for pulling in data from those other platforms and tools. So typically with SCOM, it's great for Windows and Microsoft monitoring. It's still the best tool for that. I'd recommend it. But if you want to pull data from Pingdom or, say a site 24/7, whatever it might be, you've either got to buy a management pack, which are pretty expensive, or you've got to write your own, which is pretty time consuming and complex. So our proposal is use cloud, use one of our, built-in plugins, maybe write your own plugin. Definitely easier than writing a management pack, and then flow that data back into SCOM. Yeah. But yeah, great to hear of a customer here. So that's cool. Thanks. Any more for any more? Brilliant. All right. Well, I really appreciate you joining. Thanks for coming along today. We'll wrap there. But like I say, drop by the booth if you've got any questions or anything else. Thanks.